So, thanks for the introduction. I'm Gareth Piggott. I work in the intelligence unit at the GLA. I'm the Senior Research and Statistical Officer there. So basically my job is to distribute and analyse data. The Datastore is quite a simple piece of technology. It's Drupal based, it's flat files, basically Excel, CSV, saved on a server. And then there's a lot of quite good metadata about that data. And the metadata is really the important thing on the Datastore in terms of the data that's stored there. But we also do plenty of data visualization, infographics. I work on that sort of thing. I create tools and products to access the data, give people a way in to use the data in a quite simple, easy to access way for people that aren't really data geeks. So we also provide links to the developers' works. If they create any apps from our data, we put all the links to their apps they've created on the Datastore so people can find them quite easily. And but we don't actually have any live feeds on the Datastore at all. So we would only have a link to wherever that is, whether it's at the King's College or TfL's website. The website we have doesn't have the power to actually host the feeds at this stage. So it's mostly the metadata that attracts users, and the vast majority of our users come through Google, which is no surprise. The responsibility for the website really sits with our team, the intelligence unit. It's not a web team thing at the GLA, so we have complete control in the data team over this website. We've had quite a lot of resistance to other organisations in the public sector to release their data and put it on our website, or just release it onto their website even, so we can put links to it. It's been very variable between organisations. Even within organisations, you get a team of 4 who are responsible for releasing the data. 3 of them are really keen, and 1 of them's not so keen, and that inertia can sometimes prevent the data being released. These are kind of the very real problems that we experience on the ground with actually getting what is effectively the public's data released to the public. So we do our best with meetings and whatnot, but it's not an easy path to tread. The data that we release is there not just to help developers and do with our apps, but also for planners and policymakers at the GLA, at the London boroughs, and that sort of thing, just to help with where do you put a new train line, where do you put new bus routes, that kind of thing. So we're into a lot of that kind of planning and policy making, analysis from the data. Our website, I should say, it's at the moment as well, we find it very difficult to get the whole public sector to work together to one aim. You've got 33 London boroughs in particular, which none of them really have the thought that open data is their thing, which it isn't. They're delivering services to their residents. So it's very difficult to get any of them to really share the open data vision. You get 2 or 3 boroughs that are really keen, and the rest don't want to know. So in terms of releasing anything at its standard across London, it's very difficult. The central government departments are pretty. That's the vision that's come from the Prime Minister. But people like MPS, Met Police, and TfL, again, it's very variable within those organisations. Okay, so why is London Datastore has been a relative success, but we could obviously do better still. Why do we think it's been a success? Well, the way the data is presented and put all in one place makes it very easy for people to get at the data in a single website. We focus on doing the popular stuff, and we drop the rarely used stuff. Really, that's a lot down to do with what you saw at the bottom of the last slide. It's 1 full-time equivalent staff works on it. I work on it half my time, and I've got 2 other colleagues who do about a quarter of their time on it. So really, we don't have the resources to have 1,000, 2,000 data sets and keep them up to date every week. We'd like to do more, and I'm not going to mention the word austerity at all. Okay. So generally the site is free from political interference, so you don't see a heck of a lot of this is what the mayor wants, this is what the Conservatives want. This is pretty apolitical website. People like that. The popular things on the website are our demographics, data and reports, analysis and data viz, and also the transport live feeds data. which those two are very, very closely matched in terms of the popularity on the website. There's 575 different data sets on there at the moment, about 100 apps, which basically includes tools and products that we've made, as well as the developers' apps. And we have the London Dashboard, which is a performance management tool, which we released last July. It's the most popular page, single page on the Datastore at the moment. And we send out monthly e-zines and tweets. We send out the e-zines to about 3,500 people on our database, and tweets to go to about 2,000 people on Twitter. The trend for the whole website is encouragingly upwards. Last month we had 82,000 page views, 26,000 unique visitors, and we've had 1.3 million page views since Feb 2011, when Google Analytics first came onto the Datastore. Before that, we didn't have the analytics. So the 26,000 unique visitors was about 17% of the main GLA website total traffic. We want to really increase that to above 50%. So quite ambitious, but there's a long way to go yet for that. So returning visitors. Funnily enough, most of the people that come to the Datastore are new visitors. They're unique visitors. They only come once. They find what they want, or they don't find what they want, they don't come back. So only about a quarter of our visitors come back again and again. So we really want to increase that percentage, because returning visitors are more valuable to us. They spend longer on the pages. They use the data in a better way, basically. So we're focusing on that sort of thing for the future. Dashboard trend is upwards, luckily, as well. We had 9,000 visitors in March. Most popular, if I break it down by theme on the dashboard, which is our performance management tool, as I said, for the GLA group, rather. Most popular is the jobs data, followed by communities, that's basically population, that sort of thing, nationality, and then transport in third, least popular, fire. Okay, so as I said, transport and demographics really lead the way in terms of downloads and page views, quite a long way. Jobs is a fair way back after transport. In terms of page views per package that's on the Datastore, there's only 3 packages for, say, Champion in London. The number in brackets is the number of packages, data sets on the Datastore. So young people, there's only 17, but seems to be popular. So perhaps we should do more data sets about young people. But as you see, demographics and transport, again, quite high up there. Health, really quite low down. And there's the top 15 packages on the Datastore. It's a mixture between live feeds of transport data and our demographics kind of reports analysis data. So that's what we really focus on, both of those things. Okay, so what's next? Going forward, we'd like to do a lot more kind of analysis on what's in the news, what's on vogue today. So we're going to be doing more blog, linking data on the Datastore to a blog with data viz, and hopefully we'll be doing much more of that kind of thing. We're exploring the potential new portal with Cisco, but I'll let Grant speak about that after I've finished. We're going to try and drive the Datastore forward and expand it and get more use out of it. Standing still doesn't show a commitment at all to open data, so we're not going to stand still. We're hopefully going to have a registration for the new site, so we actually start collecting data about our users, and then we can target our users far better. And we'd like to exploit the value in the existing data, public data, but that's still hidden. That's a lot of the work that we're doing with other public sector bodies and getting the data out of them. The value of open data was estimated to be £2.8 billion to London alone each year. That was a report last year. So that's public sector data. But if we think about private sector data, that could be significantly more than that figure, 2.8 billion. So, but we have problems around actually getting private companies to share their data for free. Obviously, it might be bad for PR. There's all sorts of problems around whether it's legal, people's freedoms. People don't like to be snooped on particularly in this country, which we have a problem with. And then we have whether there's any financial benefit for those, say, mobile phone companies. They release small tranches of data for us to play with, but in terms of regular live feeds, we want to see more of that. The UK chairs the Open Government Partnership that fights corruption and promotes transparency worldwide. So there's 50 member countries in that group now. So obviously the UK government is very committed to this kind of open data and open infrastructure kind of program. So we're very much behind that, and we're lobbying with Boris Johnson towards those aims. But we feel as well in this country we could go a lot further with our publicly funded organisations, which should be obliged to share anonymised data under freedom of information, where it doesn't, of course, infringe the rights of the public. Moving on for other kind of lobbying work that we kind of get involved with sometimes. Access to Wi-Fi across London is important to us. Our desires as consumers for internet connectivity at any time is dramatically on the increase, and we don't want to just be connected all the time. We want that connection to be reliable as well, no matter where we are. We're beginning to expect Wi-Fi on buses and trains, and that would increase the productivity of commuters. Also, it would help attract inward investment from other countries to London. At the moment, London's probably a little bit behind some of the other major cities of the world. And so when companies are looking to base their companies, are they going to come to London? Not based really on Wi-Fi access or a few other things at the moment. But we have a good tech city, but other things around the infrastructure, we're a bit behind. Users now have to pay for Wi-Fi at underground stations, whereas obviously in the last summer it was free. And let me move on to the next slide. New York and Paris have vast tracts of their public realm as free Wi-Fi access. In Paris, several hundred individual Wi-Fi zones offer free connections to the public parks and municipal spaces. And New York has free Wi-Fi in its parks, and last year began to install Wi-Fi internet access at several of its subway stations as well. So London needs to really match this, considering they're our main competitors on a global scale. At the very least, public buildings and parks in the UK, but particularly in London, should have free Wi-Fi access ASAP by 2018 is what we're looking for. Because actually most public buildings already do that. So actually to have a concrete promise by the government to have that in place by 2018 is not too much to ask. Train companies really need to think about what they're doing with their customers. Heathrow Express, Chiltern Railways and Grand Central Railways already all have free Wi-Fi for all of their customers. So perhaps it needs government help and assistance to push this along for the other train companies, because we don't really want to see a piecemeal effort of Wi-Fi on trains across the UK. Okay, final slide, that is my final thoughts. We've tended to see quite a lot of public mistrust in how government use data and how they collect data. But do we think that the younger generation are more accepting of data sharing because of things like Facebook and Twitter? Is that helping bring down barriers? I think it probably is, which is a good thing going forward. And the final point is about the census data, how there's not going to be a 2021 census. I don't know if there's anyone from ONS in the room, actually, but they've basically decided there's not going to be a 2021 census. So the one we had a couple of years ago was the last one. What they're going to do instead is start joining up all the data from NHS records, HMRC, DWP, electoral roll, all that kind of thing, to actually count the population in that way. There won't be a big census form, and then there'll be a small survey that's given out to a small sample every year to find out more about the characteristics of people and how that's changing, because they think they can do that with a 4% sample survey. So that's how that's going forward. But the privacy groups, funnily enough, are actually very much behind that development, because what they campaigned against, the privacy groups, was basically a big census, and that was the thing they hated the most, was the census every 10 years. So this kind of thing going on behind the scenes, you don't even know what's going on. The government joining all their data sets together, which at the moment doesn't happen. It probably should do, but it doesn't happen at all at this moment in time. Probably will be absolutely fine in terms of privacy groups accepting that way forward. Okay, thanks for listening. I'm going to pass over to Grant.